Alan! 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 Al! Alan! Alan!
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Meir Weinstein, and it's a pleasure to be with you this week. I'm going to ask everyone who's joining us if you could please share this with the various pages and groups that you're part of on social media. We'll reach a lot more people. Tonight's topic, we're asking people join the Israel Now Ben & Jerry's Kapo's Challenge. What is that? Well, it's taking off in Israel, that's for sure. It's taking off in certain Jewish communities here in North America as well. You could take a selfie, you could take a little video, grab, let's say, a small container of Ben & Jerry's, dispose of it in whatever fashion you wish to do. Promote some other brand. Haagen-Dazs, that's a wonderful brand as well. Promote them. There's a special message here. Let me get into it. Every week we start off with the Parsha. And, we just finished over the weekend commemorating Tisha B'Av. That commemorates the destruction of the temples. And Jewish people are told to fast on that day, and really it's a solemn day, it's a sad day, and we start reflecting on what took place then, how the temple was destroyed. A couple points. It says in the Talmud that the temple was destroyed because of, within the Jewish people, there was baseless hatred. And you had all kinds of examples of Jew against Jew, and that just weakened the Jewish community. And the Romans were able to utilize that division and destroy the temple. What they did also, they celebrated it. I mean, they just beat and slaughtered the Jews. They took the Jews into coliseums and fed them to the lions before huge crowds, and crowds were cheering it on. They led Jews through the streets of Rome, beating them in front of the population in Rome. They even made an arch called the Arch of Titus. And in the arch, they carved into the stone scenes of Jews being led out of Israel, out of Jerusalem. And the spoils were being taken from Jerusalem, from the temple, the gold, everything. And that's depicted in the Arch of Titus. And also the menorah, that they're carrying the menorah out from the temple. That's depicted. In this culture that says, let's tear down statues of founders of the United States, founders of Canada as well. I don't hear anyone saying, how about we tear down the Arch of Titus? The church, the Catholic Church, used to force the Jewish community in Rome to march through the Arch of Titus in a sign of humiliation, that God is not with you. And so the rabbis say that the temple was destroyed because of baseless hatred. And there's a bit of there are discussions. How is it going to be rebuilt? Well, today, we're in Israel, and we have about 7 million Jews and growing in Israel. The largest Jewish population in the world is in Israel. And the amount of Torah learning and Jewish identity is so strong, and the Jewish birth rate in Israel is very positive. The demographic is positive for the Jewish people. Everything is great, and Israel is thriving, and it's approximately 400 billion gross domestic product in Israel, and growing with an emerging technology sector in Israel. What they offer to the world in every single field with technology is unbelievable. And it's called the Startup Nation. And the oil and gas sector is going to take off in Israel. Cars in the world rely on Israeli technology today as well. But when the rabbis say that the temple was destroyed because of baseless hatred, you get a lot of rabbis, a number of rabbis that I think mistakenly, they say that the third temple will be rebuilt through baseless love. Sounds interesting, baseless love. I beg to differ with that. I think the opposite of baseless hatred. Let's look at the word baseless. Chaos. What's the opposite of chaos? With no foundation, no base. Baseless, no base, no foundation. Structure. The Torah is structure. The Torah has rules. The Torah is an unbelievable guide how Jews are supposed to live. It tells us how to build the temple. You can't do it on your own. You can't just think it up. You can't think up how to make your own tefillin. It says in Torah what tefillin is, how to make it. It says how to keep Shabbat. You don't make it up. It's baseless to make it up. So, and what's the opposite of hate? Love. Structured love will build the temple. Structured love, foundational. That's what it should be. And there's a sea of difference between the term baseless love and structured love. Baseless love, we could reach out to modern day Kapos today and embrace them with smiles and say, it's okay, anything goes. Anything does not go. We have a horrific situation today. The day after Tisha B'Av, the day after Jews were fasting, and when the time is going, and it's a long fast, and it's on a hot summer day, it's a long fast. So myself, and I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this, spent the time looking at videos in Israel of thousands of Jews at the Kotel, at the wall, praying. And also there was a record number of Jews that ascended the Temple Mount, Har Bayit. Set a record. There was even some prayer going on Har Bayit from Jews, and they sung Hatikvah. There were two members of Knesset there. They sang Hatikvah. And it went on. And we don't know what the situation will be next year for Tisha B'Av. I'm sure it's going to be even more going up. And I'm sure there's going to be more prayer and more singing Hatikvah. It's interesting. We're taking it back. The Jewish people are taking it back. Very positive. And at the same time, while I was watching that, in the last few hours of Tisha B'Av, I spent it doing more research on the Arch of Titus, the humiliation that the Jews went through, everything, and just pretty much the items that I mentioned just a moment ago about the Arch of Titus. So I was thinking about that, and it was a feeling sad for the day of Tisha B'Av and being in solidarity with my people, with our people. The very next day, Ben & Jerry's announces a boycott of Israel. It's unbelievable. Jews. To make matters worse, so-called progressive Jewish groups joined the call of Ben & Jerry's and praised them. The reaction from the government of Israel has been to call this anti-Semitic. And the foreign minister, in fact, Yair Lapid, has been taking action, has been contacting, I believe, 35 different states in the United States that passed anti-BDS legislation to take legal action against Ben & Jerry's. We'll see what happens. But at the same time, you have J Street and their allies ridiculing the government of Israel, ridiculing this decision, and standing with the BDS. The parent company of Ben & Jerry's, Unilever, they operate in many countries. We're going to be showing some memes. We're going to be giving a lot of information tonight about this. They operate in countries where there are conflicts, where there's so-called occupied territory. They impose no boycott. There we have it on the screen. They operate in Syria, occupied northern Cyprus, occupied Crimea. There's a list of occupied Tibet. There's a list that goes on. There is no boycott. There is no boycott. What does that bring us to? That brings us to the working definition of anti-Semitism. Now, we have been calling for the implementation and acceptance by various governments on all levels and school boards on all levels, universities, to adopt the IRA definition of anti-Semitism. And what does it say in part of it? They give the definitions. Applying double standards by requiring of it a behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation. That's what it says. And this is what Ben & Jerry's is engaged with. Another example, drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. Now, the opponents of the IRA definition of anti-Semitism, they object to the examples, these two examples, and other examples as well. They want to have free rein to compare Israel to Nazi Germany. Now, can you believe that? Nazi Germany. They want to compare Israel to Nazi Germany. They want to accuse Israel of committing genocide, ethnic cleansing. There's no basis for these claims, but they want to have free rein. And Ben & Jerry's and J Street and their allies. There's a summit going on right now in Ottawa, an emergency summit called by the government of Canada to take action against anti-Semitism. The main organizer is Erwin Kotler. He's a good man. He's got a long record of doing great things for the Jewish people on the issue of anti-Semitism worldwide. His daughter was a Knesset member, in fact. She's brilliant in Israel. CIJA, UJA, they have been invited to make presentations to make the point, and I'm sure they'll do a good job at that. However, they invited as well JSpace. JSpace represents the so-called progressive Jews here in Canada. And JSpace is arm in arm with J Street. J Street backs Ben & Jerry's. JSpace has retweeted in a positive way the tweets from J Street to support Ben & Jerry's. When you're invited to a summit, an emergency summit on the issue of anti-Semitism, you're giving a horrible presentation to the government of Canada on this issue. The government of Israel has called it anti-Semitic. We have to be on the same page as the government of Israel when it comes to this level of anti-Semitism. JSpace and J Street are not. And J Street and JSpace are not in agreement either about the IRA definition of anti-Semitism. They have no issue with these BDS organizations making these comparisons, giving them free rein to say what they say. We have a guest tonight, Alan Skorski. He's on top of this issue. He's got a lot to say. It's going to be great having Alan on tonight. Got so much to talk about. This is a topic that we don't want to talk about because it's a horrible topic to see this division in our Jewish community, but we have to take it on. We have to take it on. We have to address it. There's a lot to say. Alan, welcome to the show.
Well, Jeff, it's great to be with you. You made all the great points, so I have nothing left to say.
Oh, okay.
Being though you hit so many home runs tonight, and I don't even know where to begin, so I'll start somewhere.
Alan, let me just bump in one quick sec. A little plug.
Okay.
This is Haagen-Dazs. This is Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Do not buy Ben & Jerry's. You're supposed to, when you get Ben & Jerry's, you throw it in the garbage. This is what you do with Haagen-Dazs, Jews who support Israel, who support the Jewish people. You take a little bit of it, you enjoy it. L'chaim to everyone.
You see, Doc, Meir was waiting for this day when he could have the excuse and the justification to eat Haagen-Dazs on his show. Okay, that's what all this comes down to. Right? Anyhow, so let me get to the IRA thing first, because that's something that I've been wanting to say about the IRA definition of anti-Semitism. And then I'll go back to what I was going to say originally. Do you know that the Jews are the only people being denied the right to define what bigotry is against their own people? When it comes to the Black community, Hispanic community, the gay community, women's groups, all of them have the right to define what is bigotry against their groups, against their people. The Jews are the only ones being denied that right. I just thought that I threw that in there as a sidebar. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It's funny that we have to apologize, or we have to explain that comparing Jews to Nazis, of all the other group, why would you think that Jews and Nazis in the same breath is particularly anti-Semitic? Think about that. Now, let's go back to Ben and Jerry's. I began this week, Monday morning, going through my Twitter feed. And I saw Ariel Gold from Code Pink. Now, I rarely, almost never, call anybody a self-hating Jew because it's too easy. Mm-hmm. I call Noam Chomsky a self-hating Jew, or George Soros, a handful of people. But she's the worst of them all. And she's the one who posted the Ben and Jerry's press release. And I had to look at it to make sure it was real. So I immediately put it on Facebook. I immediately sent an email to the Cuff K, who is an international kashrus agency, and they are the ones who certify Ben and Jerry's. That morning, I had emailed a friend of mine who is a major buyer at a major kosher supermarket here in New York. And I asked him, I said, look at this press release, and I'm begging you, please remove it from your freezers. And he wrote back saying, we have tried or attempted to boycott Ben and Jerry's before because they have a long history of anti-Israel activism. And his response was, it's been tried in the past, and whenever we took it out, customers complained. And besides, he said, this is really just in the so-called the territories, and so it's not going to affect that many Jews. And I was very disheartened by his response. Well, by midday, everything had changed. Every major kosher supermarket in the New York, New Jersey area had issued press releases. We're banning Ben and Jerry's. Today, the Kashrus Authority of Australia issued a press release that they will no longer list Ben and Jerry's as a kosher item on their list. Today, the town of Hempstead, where I live, which is in Nassau County, Long Island, tomorrow they're going to make it official, but they've already issued a release that they will be terminating all contracts with Ben and Jerry's and Unilever. Now, Unilever is caught in the middle of this. We can talk about that a little later if you like also, because they own Ben and Jerry's. But when they bought it, I think back in 2000, there was a stipulation, an unusual stipulation, that they have to kind of abide by Ben and Jerry's social conscious policies, whatever the hell that means. Now, here is a funny thing, though. And, you have to laugh when haters do stupid things. And what am I talking about? The contract with Ben & Jerry's Israel is still valid for another year and a half. Mm-hmm. So they created an SH storm a year and a half before that agreement terminates. And what they've done now is they have unleashed the wrath of not only the Jewish community or the pro-Israel Jewish community, but also all those who are fed up and have had it up to here with the left-wing woke movement and the pro-Israel community, which goes beyond just Jews. It goes to the Christian organizations. And I saw today, I haven't confirmed it, that even Publix is going to be banning Ben and Jerry's products. And Publix is a very large chain in Florida. Had they been smart, they would have waited until a week before their agreement terminates. And now the Cuff K, again, coming back to them, who has the certification, they are coming under immense pressure to terminate their hashgacha. Now, I understand that things cannot be done in haste. The Cuff K is not a small kashrus organization. Ben and Jerry's, Unilever are not a small company. So they are consulting with their lawyers and how they're going to handle this, because you can't just say, we're done when you're not kosher anymore. So there's a lot that's going to be happening. But in the meantime, they have rallied. And as you said, right after Tisha B'Av, they have unified the pro-Israel community in ways I've never seen before. And I will tell you, and I rarely say this, I rarely say that I am proud of our people, but now I am. Because I have never seen such a swift retaliation from the pro-Israel community in America and in the state of Israel. And this is not going away. And then you mentioned the 33 or 35 states, I don't remember how many it is, but basically they all signed on to an anti-BDS legislation. Now, I don't know at the time they ever envisioned that they'd have to invoke it, but here it is. And now they're going to have to act. And this means that now, for all those who thought, big deal, Ben & Jerry's is going to lose the business of a few angry Jews. Wrong. When you're going to lose the business contracts of 33 to 35 states, which means all their municipalities, I read that one of them is going to be the University of Texas, and Texas has a very pro-Israel government there. And it's going to happen in other big states. Yep. Ben & Jerry's now is going to lose millions and millions of dollars. They're going to have to go to court to fight, to defend themselves, which means more negative publicity. This is publicity that maybe Ben & Jerry's doesn't care about, because when you're woke, you're just too stupid to understand what bad publicity means. But this is not what Unilever wants. They want nothing to do with this. So, my last point, Unilever issued a press release that regarding Ben & Jerry's, that they will continue to maintain a presence in the state of Israel. The board, who controls the Ben & Jerry's, that controls their brand, they went nuts because they said that Unilever had no right to issue that press release. It was unauthorized. So now Ben & Jerry's is claiming that Unilever is both racist and sexist because the board that controls the decisions, and this is their words, not mine, is made up of women and people of color. And they were upended by Unilever's press release. So that's where we're at today. This is not against the Jews. We are not in this fight alone. Ben & Jerry's did something very stupid and very reckless and careless, all based out of hatred, baseless hatred, but this is wokeness hatred. And they're going to end up paying for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our doctor in the studio, it would be great if he would explain some of these memes that we have.
Let me show you a couple. I'm going to put me and you to the side. But, Ben & Jerry's has a very long history of this alt-left progressive philosophy. And it didn't, when President Trump won the election, they had the nerve to send, these are excerpts, the whole letter is available. This is what they said to our president of the United States. Who does that? You were elected to our nation's highest office, an outcome that leaves half of our country feeling sadness and shock. And that's to the president, and it was published. There is some drawn to hate, bigotry, misogyny, cruelty, and more. We will continue to be strong advocates of racial and social justice, on and on and on and on. You notice they mention women, people of color, Muslims, migrants. I don't see anything about the persecution of Jews, which, as we know, the highest hate crime against any group is against the Jews in Canada and in America. And to our president, they had the nerve to say that they challenge him. We challenge you to hear the voices of Americans who are fighting for a country built on justice and equality. It gets worse. This is the letter, and you can find the whole letter. The link is on the bottom. But this is a nice little picture of Ben & Jerry. And again, a lot of people texted, oh, they're no longer ownership. Well, that's not quite true. They don't own it anymore, but they're very involved in day-to-day operations. And here they are with Linda Sarsour and others. This is kind of like the Progressive League. If you do a super anti-hero movie, these are the anti-heroes. So who's in this picture? I think Linda Sarsour doesn't require any introduction. But let me just brief you on the others. And I'm not making judgments. I'm just quoting off their personal websites. So in that picture with Ben & Jerry, we have Dina Moreira, who is from Netta, saying that asylum seekers are sleeping at the ports of entry. Whose fault is that? Who got them there to sleep at the ports of entry? I'm in Texas. She's in Texas. No border wall. No border wall means no country. Then we have Fabiana Rodriguez in that photograph, who's the executive director of Culture Strike. And again, you can't make this stuff up. This isn't me. This is her. Her big project today is called, and I'm embarrassed to say it, I have 3 daughters. But it's
Say it.
Power, which seeks to redefine the pussy as a source of empowerment, and there are logos, and there are, and then we have Brandy Collins Dexter. One of the most important thing she's done is convince Disney not to whitewash the characteristics of Princess Tiana. Now we have Wiana Duke, who's very educated, very good-looking, Harvard University, Antioch University. She ran as vice presidential candidate with Ralph Nader. She now has a 40-acre hemp farm making marijuana, and she's been on several occasions brought up against accusations against Israel and the Palestinians, and she made a quote about how the indigenous tribes who are working on the pipeline are like at Auschwitz, and they're like the Capos. So back to you guys, but I just had to get that out of my system. Last comment, which we showed a little earlier, but this is who Ben & Jerry's company does work with. I had to look up these countries to see exactly where they are, that they're all questionable. Anyway, guys, that's enough for me. I can take a rest. Back to you.
Alan, so I've been posting some of these memes and some of the information on Facebook and on Instagram. So here's a couple of interesting comments that came from human rights activists with the BDS.
Of course.
One guy, Khalil Zanim. So he makes a comment on my post. No human in the world recognizes the, quote, state of Israel. Why else did your grandparents run from Europe like dogs? Not one country in the world wanted to take your people in. Your very own Golda admitted that. You are not special or above the law in any way. History is full of militarily strong oppressors meeting the most humiliating of ends. Just wait for the day, Meir. Your state, quotes, doesn't have more than 20 years left to give before imploding in on itself. Political clowns of the world. And then his buddy follows through, another guy with a Middle Eastern sounding name. Hey, bitch, do you think the world is blind? What happened to your ancestors in Germany will soon happen to the Zionists. If I see a Zionist in my country or near me, I will do something that he or she will remember for his or her whole life. Now, these are the human rights activists from the BDS that don't want the IRA definition of anti-Semitism to be accepted. They're such sweet, nice, cuddly people. They don't hate Jews. They don't admire Hitler. They just want to make sure that the example here in the IRA definition, where making comparisons with the Nazis is not there, where double standards are not there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, where they are allowed to demonize Jews in the state of Israel as much as they want, allowed to accuse Jews in Israel of spreading the coronavirus, comparing Jews in Israel to the coronavirus that must be stamped out. That's what we're up against. And organizations like J Street to embrace these people, and people who work with J Street like Peter Beinart that embrace the worst of the worst that call for an intifada in North America and by any means necessary to eliminate the state of Israel, gives a platform to his buddy Omar Barghouti, the founder of the BDS, that there should not be a Jewish state of any size.
Right.
Alan, go ahead.
So, it's you brought that meme up and it made me sick. But this is why I keep telling people that this fight, that it's not about fighting. It's not about the truth. It's not about fighting facts with truth. The truth will set you free. Does not work here. We are fighting a war against propaganda. The weak in Israel, they have the Iron Dome and they have the Patriots, and they can fight. They can shoot down missiles coming out of Gaza, coming out of Lebanon. We here in the West are fighting a power, and we are so overpowered. You can have 100 Jews and 200 different messages. You can have 1 million Palestinian, PLO, Hamas, whatever you want to call them, and they stay on message, and they never walk off message until it's now believed. Mm-hmm. Apartheid, genocide, ethnic cleansing, they hijack other movements and other causes and make it as their own. The George Floyd, a black man killed by a cop, became hijacked by the Palestinianist movement as these cops are trained by Israel how to oppress black people. It's in the media. It's in the halls of Congress. It's in academia. When you have members of Congress, remember just in 2018, the Jewish left said it's just 4 voices. When I raised Linda Sarsour years ago, I was told I'm giving her publicity. No, you idiots. She was being touted by Barack Obama. She was campaigning with Kirsten Gillibrand, a New York senator who was running for president. Rashida Tlaib is from Detroit, Michigan. She's a U.S. Congresswoman. She is defended by the Democrat leadership, by Nancy Pelosi, by Steny Hoyer. It was just a few months ago where Steny Hoyer said, you may not agree with her, but she's basically a good person. Well, if you can be a rabid anti-Semite, you know what would happen if some Republicans said, I don't agree with David Duke on everything, but he's got some good ideas. There would be such a fury and such a backlash that they'd be run out of town. But not here, not in Congress, not with Democrats, not with the Islamist Palestinianist movement. Now, I'm going to tell you something interesting. I did some Googling on myself. It's always fun to do that. And I found an article that I had written in 2003, 18 years ago, about Ben & Jerry's and about Unilever. Because back then, this was when George W. Bush was looking to go to war against Iraq. And so you had all these groups led by a group called ANSWER, which stands for Act Now to Stop War and End Racism. And you had Ben Cohen going to all these rallies. And so when I started to research about the different organizations that Ben Cohen belongs to, one of them is called Not in My Name. And another one is called True Majority, which is an umbrella group for many groups. One of them is called Global Exchange. And here's what Global Exchange says about Israel. And this is an organization that is supported by Ben Cohen. There are 7 points here about Israel. And this is going back to 2003. Israel is illegally occupying Palestinian land. Israel systematically violates the human rights of Palestinians. U.S. aid to Israel violates the U.S.'s own laws. And again, there are 4 more. So for anyone who thinks that this just started in 2018 or even started with Barack Obama, this goes all the way back. And these people, the Linda Sarsours, the Hamas caucus, they've been doing this for 20, 30 years or even longer. And so anyone who thinks that it's just a few people or it's just a very small fringe group in the Democrat Party, they couldn't be more wrong. This is an international movement that is being mainstreamed. Now, when I said earlier that I'm very proud of the pro-Israel community for rallying around and united, there is a small group, and I'm disgusted by them, and some of them live in my community. There have been calls for the Cuff K to withdraw their certification. And there's a small group saying, no, you have no right to pressure them. You can't mix politics and kashrus. And I said, no, this isn't about mixing politics and kashrus. This is about an assault. A kashrus organization comprised of Orthodox rabbis, their job is not solely to walk into a facility and give the thumbs up or down to whether the ingredients are approved by kosher standards. They also represent Klal Yisrael. Okay, so this attack on Israel, on the legitimacy of Israel, is an attack on the Jewish people. And if Orthodox rabbis cannot take a principled stand, then there is something very wrong with us. And if we can't all unite, regardless, I don't care if you're in the kashrus, I don't care if you're a ZOA, if you're a political action group, we all have a moral responsibility to stand up and fight back against Ben & Jerry's. And you can't say, well, they're kashrus. Now, again, these people tend to have an animus towards kashrus organizations anyhow. So it's funny now, all of a sudden now they're coming to their defense. But you cannot ask the Gentile world, why aren't you standing with us? If you're going to say that Orthodox rabbis, that they should just stick to kashrus. No, this is an assault on the Jewish people, the Jewish nation, and the Jewish statehood. And we all have a moral obligation to unite. Whether, again, you're a rabbi and you're a pulpit rabbi, you're a kashrus rabbi, you're Meir Weinstein, Alan Skorski, we all have a moral obligation to band together.
I said, the lesson of I say, the opposite of baseless hatred is structured love. If you are supporting through a food product and you're giving a stamp of approval, kashrut, that food product supports anti-Semitism, and the government of Israel
Right.
and the people in Israel are united about that definition, that this fits the definition of anti-Semitism, you can't make it, you can't say it's kosher.
Right.
You can't do it.
So I do know that the CUFK is going to be issuing a statement soon. Now, again, I understand their predicament. This is a major, major company. And I'm sure that behind the scenes, they're afraid, okay, if we withdraw our supervision, will the OU move in? Now, I am fairly certain that if they pull out, no other organization is going to move in. Right. And if Ben and Jerry's isn't afraid, if they're giving this small group of people, now this was initiated, by the way, we didn't mention this earlier, by a group called Vermonters for Justice in Palestine. Now, who the hell are these? Who ever heard of them before? On their Facebook page, they have maybe 2,500 likes. So they're not a very powerful group. And if Ben and Jerry's is saying that we are listening to our fans and our supporters, then you've got a real problem. And if this small band of people aren't afraid or embarrassed to support a movement to delegitimize the only Jewish state in the world, then how dare we as Jews not unite and say, F you, your products will no longer be, allowed here. And the CUFK, again, I know they're in a predicament and they will have to work it out with their lawyers and with their other people and their other organizations. But like, just as you said, their symbol, imagine if Ben and Jerry's was called Adolf and Rudolph's, okay? Adolf Hitler and Rudolf Hess, okay? And people say, well, you can't, kosher shouldn't get mixed up with politics. Their symbol, their trade and their kosher symbols are trademark symbols. They are basically saying that we are going to let our name be used on a brand that is notoriously anti-Semitic. Are you freaking kidding me?
Absolutely. There's no question about it. It's an issue of self-respect as well. And there needs to be that in the Jewish community. And, the largest supermarket chain in Israel, I just forget the name of it right now, but apparently they approached the licensee in Israel, Ben & Jerry's, and they said to him, they said, we don't want to carry Ben & Jerry's anymore, obviously. We don't want to see you affected financially. Change the name of what you have. You manufacture anyways. Change the name and we will carry it. No problem. We'll promote it.
Meir, when's the last time you were in Israel?
1 year ago.
Okay. You know that they have some of the best ice cream. Now, I'm not a huge fan of their chocolate bars, but you talk about their ice cream. I know there's a brand called Aldo, which is everywhere. They've got another, I think it's called Golda's, I think. It's in Mamila Mall. And I will tell you, it was the best damned ice cream I ever had. And they were giving me samples. I was saying, more. And, bring it to America. So you know what? You don't need Ben & Jerry's.
Right.
I know that Israelis like to mimic America. It makes them feel, Americanized. And I get that. You know what? You don't need a brand like that. And you've got enough of your own good stuff. And thank God, the Jewish community, we're not starving. There are tons and tons of kosher brands out there. You mentioned Haagen-Dazs. Go ahead, Meir. I know that you're just looking at that carton right now and you want another spoonful. Go for it. There are tons and tons of kosher ice creams. So we don't need them. And you know what? This wasn't, a tepid anti-Semitic incident. This was full-blown screw Israel. And the board that initiated this boycott, they wanted the entire state. They didn't want to just do, quote unquote, the territories. They wanted the whole state, but they only got this. So mark my words, they want to boycott the entire state, and they're not going to stop. And that's the difference between leftists and us. We take defeat and we walk away and lick our wounds. They take defeat as just a mild stumbling block to overcome, and they will continue to do it. The BDS movement is alive and well. You look at it through social media. You look at it everywhere. It's in academia. Again, here, I live in New York, the Jewish capital of America. The anti-Semitism across the state and city schools, Jewish professors. And right now, there's a friend of mine who recently, now there's a movement through the CUNY schools that supports Jewish professors not even necessarily ardent Zionists, are all withdrawing from the union because the union passed a BDS resolution by like 84-30, something like that, and they did it in secrecy. I am told that any Jewish professor who goes for a job interview, you wear a yarmulke, you might as well kiss that job goodbye. And I was cited plenty of examples by it. They have Jewish professors are harassed by their colleagues, and I know that there are lawsuits going on, so it's going to be a major news-breaking story, and I'll be happy to introduce them to the people when it comes out. But it's happening all over the state of New York. Now, the mayor of New York, who is a socialist, Bill de Blasio, I'll give him credit that he said he's not going to eat Ben & Jerry's anymore. He's not someone that we've always been able to rely on. He's a big BLM supporter, and he's certainly anti-police. And as you know, there is a commonality between all these groups who are anti-America, anti-flag, anti-cop. They're all anti-Israel. So here I'll give the mayor of New York City his due. He publicly stated, no more Ben & Jerry's for me. So good for him.
Ben & Jerry's considers Jews praying at the Kotel, at the Western Wall, to be a war crime. That's what the BDS says. That's what that movement says. A war crime. That's what Gay Street is supporting. That when the Jews were gathered, thousands of Jews at the Kotel praying on Tisha B'Av, they consider that a war crime. That's what they support.
Now, who do they consider that? Here's a question. The Kotel, they know that it's not an Islamic site. So who do they think it belongs to?
They won't get into that.
Okay. So when they say that,
from these people,
right. So when they say that beyond the 1967 borders, who did the Kotel ever belong to? How do they deny and how do they remain silent when they say that there's no Jewish connection to the state of Israel? They know in Hebron where Abraham and Isaac were buried, Meir Machpelah. So Rachel and all of our patriarchs and matriarchs are all buried there. So this movement is, and again, it's infuriating to me how so many Jewish groups, and I don't care how religious you are, that's between you and God, but how do you not recognize what the BDS movement is really all about? It is not about two states. It's not about peaceful coexistence. It's about destroying Israel. And this is what they are all complicit in this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Israelis get it. They've been saying that very loud and clear in the past few days when this whole thing erupted. They've been very upfront about it, and that's what they say. They call the BDS anti-Semitic. They call and they say, and who is there? They want us to give land to who? Who is there to negotiate with? Who's going to fill? Is it going to be a peaceful, democratic Palestine state that will be in peace with Israel? Is it going to be a Hamas state launching rockets?
Right.
Is that what this? And they want to force Israel and determine before any kind of negotiations, even what the boundaries should be.
Right. And Joe Biden is right now. He doesn't know what day of the week it is, even if you put a calendar right in front of his face. And he is so determined. Again, I don't know if it's him or if it's people behind him who are pulling all the strings, but the U.S. policy is to continue to move towards a two-state solution. And you know that a few weeks ago, the Israeli government leveled the house. I forgot the guy's name, but someone who murdered some Jews in Israel, but he's an American Palestinian. And the U.S. administration denounced Israel for blowing it up. So you know what? It's again, there is no moral compass here in America. Again, at some point we're going to get fed up. The normal Americans will say that they've had enough of this. And just to go off track because it is related, Portland, Oregon is one of the most liberal, woke states in the country, or cities in the country. The mayor is as woke as they get, and a cop hater. Yesterday he was on the news saying, "I want more cops here now." So finally, people will wake up, and hopefully in 2002, when we have our next elections, they'll all get thrown out of office, and maybe we'll get some normalcy back. Listen, I have no faith in the future of America. I really don't. I think it's just a matter of how slow we keep things from going down the toilet. But we're heading there. When we live in a country at a time when someone like Bernie Sanders can be legitimized, when you have someone like AOC, who was a former bartender, and I used to call her the former lap dancer until my friends got upset with me. When you have her dictating U.S. economic policy, climate policy, foreign policy, and she's an idiot. And I know why they have her on CNN, because she's pretty and they like talking to her and flirting with her, but she's an idiot. When she holds a press conference and you have all those men behind her applauding her, they're all looking at her from the back and enjoying the view. But this is what the Democrat Party has turned into. When Rashida Tlaib, but now you saw also, there was on Twitter and also went through social media, Corey Bush from, I think from St. Louis, another squad member now is saying, you know what, now I know what ice cream I'm going to support, who's joining me. So this is the movement of the Democrat Party, and the leadership don't have the guts to call out these young punks. They've been in Washington for 20, 30, 40 years, and they're terrified by 4 or 5, a half a dozen amateurs, rank amateurs, racists who are turning their party, into a circus. Now, I don't know if you read, but the Labor Party now, under new leadership, they are preventing the return of Jeremy Corbyn and his acolytes back into the party because they said, you've done enough damage to us. Democrats haven't learned that lesson yet.
Right. Our doctor in the studio, is there a video that we...
There are several videos. What in particular we could do one which kind of explains the whole situation, which Alan actually sent to me, and you had already sent it to me. So why don't we go and put that one on? And then there's some others kind of on topic, but off a little bit. One is a Christian who's proud to be a member of the Israeli Defense Forces. One is a Muslim who's proud to be a member of the Israeli Defense Forces, plus some personal comments about Ben and Jerry's I'd like to make at some point also. So let's back up and start off with a video that you and Alan both recommended. So keep chatting until it's on the screen.
Our viewers, you could call in if you have a comment or a question. The phone number is 647-510-5535. And I'm asking also our viewers who's joining us, please make a contribution. Go on our website, israelnow.ca. We could use it. We need to move forward. We need to do a lot of work, a lot of monitoring. There's so much going on with anti-Semitism. We have to be on top of it. We have to exist. We have the video. It's a great video. It's very short too, right to the point.
You might be wondering who's behind Ben and Jerry's boycotting Israel. Meet Anuradha Mittal. She sits on their board, but she's also a hardcore anti-Zionist activist. We counted at least 107 anti-Israel tweets from her, like this one describing the creation of Israel as a catastrophe. The catastrophe continues. Nakba 70 years later, Palestine bleeds. Boycott, divest, sanctions, Israel. She also appears to support boycotting Israel in its entirety. Shakira, thank you for cancelling performance in Israel. But don't expect Ben & Jerry's to reverse their boycott, as this is how Mattel reacted when Airbnb reversed theirs. Just deactivated my Airbnb account for backpedaling from delisting from stolen Palestinian land. Ben & Jerry's aren't going to reverse this disgraceful boycott, not while they're controlled by extremists like Anuradha. But you know who does make great ice cream? Haagen-Dazs. Why not try it? Thanks for watching. If you'd like to help us make more videos like this, you can support us on Patreon, or by purchasing our merch, or by sharing this video and following us on all of our social media. It all helps.
Okay, guys, that was, I think, definitely worthy of mention. Talk a little bit, and I'd like to show another couple of videos when you guys need a break from your voices, so let me know when.
Are we going back to promoting ice cream?
Okay. You ask.
What flavor do you have, Meir?
Oh, my God. Caramel Cone Explosion by Haagen-Dazs.
There you go. And you know what? There are so many. Sharon Sorbet is another good one, and it's parv. And there's one called Soylicious, which I buy on Shabbos. It's made of cashew milk or soy milk, and they've got great flavors also. So you know what? How we allowed one schmucky ice cream company to be so much a part of our lives, I will never know.
It's contributing to Hamas. So give to people who support Israel, Haagen-Dazs, survivors. They even supported Rabbi Meir Kahane. They're great people.
You know what, Mayor? You know what point I want, and you saw this in Canada, if I'm not mistaken. You saw these troublemakers running through supermarkets and going to freezers and pulling out all these Israeli brands and shoving them onto the floor, like Sabra hummus and all these other brands. I know they did it in Europe. If Jews behaved the way these animals did, we'd be going to all these supermarkets, opening the freezer doors and dumping ice cream. But we don't act that way because we are too civilized. So
Right.
America, you decide, you know, whatever your feelings about us are, you can turn your country over to a bunch of animals whose culture is so, and again, I'm getting really hardcore now, but you're allowing subversives. We've allowed it in America. We've allowed subversives, cop haters, America bashers, anti-capitalists into our Congress. Don't let it happen in your state, in your country.
Well, look,
Humor me for a second. Let me make a couple of quick personal comments, if I might, about Ben and Jerry. And, you know, I got to start off by saying that I've always, until recently, until all this debacle, I kind of respected those guys. And I'll let you know why in a quick little video I threw together while you guys were chatting.
okay.
Okay, so here it is. So just from the personal perspective of your audiovisual engineer, these are my personal comments regarding the Ben and Jerry controversy. So take it away. So I've really got to say this. The entire Ben and Jerry thing really does bother me personally. And the reason is because I've always enjoyed those two. And I've particularly enjoyed their, what seemed to be this warm, loving relationship they had with each other. And I've always enjoyed Ben and Jerry so much. You know, they've been in movies together. And, you know, Jerry just passed away recently. So, you know, let's think about Ben and Jerry. Why are we giving them such a hard time? And a word, you know, more Ben and Jerry.
You and me will head to Vegas. Maybe we'll get lucky and tag team a couple of broads.
Yeah, I have to say the idea of a tag team with my 77-year-old father is extremely tempting.
I love Ben and Jerry.
I've got to send you a hysterical
hey,
video now.
you mean the other Ben and Jerry? Why didn't you tell me? You should have just said so.
That's very different. Never mind.
Okay, guys, back to you. I couldn't resist.
Okay, Doctor, I'm going to send you something now, and you've got to play it because it's hysterical. It's a spoof TikTok about what happens if someone named Ben or Jerry arrives at Israel at passport control. I just sent it to you now. You got to put up there. It's a Mayor. I said you saw it earlier.
Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah, I just sent it over to Gary.
That was at customs at the airport.
Yeah. Do you see it? Now let's see how
I've got
quick
the
Gary
link.
can.
It takes a little bit for me to link it through two programs to get it to the screen, to get it to Restream. So keep talking, and I'll let you know when I have it.
Okay.
My goodness. Well, tomorrow morning, I am going to a rally in the town of Hempstead where they're going to make it official that they are boycotting all Unilever and Ben & Jerry's products. On my podcast, which you were nice enough to promote, we are going to be interviewing tomorrow attorney David Schoen to talk about all the legal ramifications that Ben & Jerry just brought on themselves.
Right.
And then we're going to be interviewing somebody from Israel in a few weeks from the Yisha Council. That is, one of the big mockers from Judea and Samaria, directly impacted by the boycott. So we'll be happy to share those with you as well. But
Who are you going to have on from the Yesha Council?
you know what? His first name is Yigal. I don't even know his last name.
Okay.
But I just met him today.
No, that's going to be good. That's good.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one.
It's amazing. They try to portray the Jews living in Judea and Samaria as being from some caveman era, unkept extremists. Nothing like that at all. They're just like us.
Right.
And they live there. That's the thing.
You know what the crazy thing is that they keep talking about violating international law, only they've never been able to present what international law they are violating. And
Right.
a friend of mine actually wrote, and this was accepted, I don't know if by law review, but by one of the main legal publications, that indeed it is not occupied territory or a violation of international law. But again, it sounds like fancy words when you can say they're violating international law, as if they even know what it means.
How come nobody objected to after the 1948 war, when Jordan controlled East Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria, and they desecrated everything holy to Jews, and they made the Kotel into a garbage dump,
Right.
and smashed Jewish gravestones and made them into walkways to bathrooms. No one said anything. Nobody
You know what?
cared.
Israel stood alone for a very long time until the world recognized how valuable they are. Now, remember also, even during the Reagan administration, when Reagan was considered very pro-Israel, by today's standards, he wouldn't, there'd be some problems with some of the things he did. But I remind them that when Reagan was president, there was a Soviet Union, there was a Cold War, and there was OPEC. So anything that Israel did directly impacted the United States and the West. Today, none of those are issues anymore. So the only reason to go against Israel is anti-Semitism and nothing more.
Right, bingo.
There's that video you about the arrival of Ben and or Jerry in Israel is the one we're looking for, correct?
Yes.
Without any further ado, here it comes.
Shalom, welcome to Israel. Can I have your passport?
Oh, yes, here it is.
I see your name is Ben.
Yeah, that's my name.
Tell me, Ben, you have a friend named Jerry?
No.
Habibi, I can tell you are lying. I'm trained for this in the Mossad.
What? No.
Your brother named Jerry?
No.
Your cousin, his name Jerry?
Oh, ma'am, look, I just came to visit my grandma.
Your dog, Jerry?
You have to believe me, I don't know any Jerrys.
Okay, sure. Tomer. My friend Tomer over here is very nice, okay? He's gonna bring you somewhere.
Where am I going?
Lolly dog mommy, you see behind you the green door? When you see the falafel place, you will see big freezer. Go inside.
You want me to go into a freezer?
Your name is Ben, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there is Jerry there too. You can freeze your tachat together.
Look, I'm not going into a freezer.
Hello, Ben. This is new protocol. No Ben, no Jerry allowed in Israel. Yalla, next.
And there you have it.
There you go.
No kidding. And that's it. And that's why, Alan, it ties in exactly what you said with the kashrut certification. Not into Israel. We don't want you. We're not giving any stamp of approval. You're not kosher, this product. That's it. You're into anti-Semitism. You cut yourself off. Like on Pesach, you ate the bread. You didn't want to have anything to do with Pesach or matzah. You decided on your own. That's where you want to be.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, and this is something that I wonder, what happens to the board next? Do they get disbanded? Does Unilever retaliate? Because they are a lot bigger than who this board is. Remember, they are a multi-billion-dollar international conglomerate. And I don't believe for a second that they're going to let this small board ruin their reputation. Because, again, they're going to take a hit. And anyone who thinks that billionaires don't care about losing a few $1 million don't understand the mentality of billionaires. They didn't become rich by poo-pooing away a few $1 million.
Maybe they'll drop the product line of Ben & Jerry's.
You know what? Listen, I don't know what's going to happen. But, again, this issue is not going to go away. And, again, we are going to get more and more allies coming out to support us. And that's one thing that I'm certain of. This is not a fight that we're fighting alone, as we have so many times in the past. When Israel retaliated this past summer against 4,000 rockets, everyone thought that, how could anyone complain if Israel retaliates? Well, they did. But this time, I think there's going to be a much wider support for us, for the state of Israel, and for the Jewish people.
And it's very important that J Street got exposed for who they are.
Yep.
That they're in bed 100% with Ben & Jerry's, and the official line of the new government in Israel is that this is anti-Semitism, and therefore they can't, in any good conscience, participate in any forums put on or conferences put on by J Street, because J Street publicly crossed the line and accepted and embraced this anti-Semitism.
And that's good. And it's funny, I am not a Yair Lapid fan by any stretch of the imagination. I always said I don't trust any man who looks in the mirror more than I do. But here, though, a guy like him has that credibility because he's from the East Center left. And for him to come out and say that this is anti-Semitism has a whole lot more credibility than if Bibi says it or if Naftali Bennett says it. So in a situation like this, he played a role. Now, again, like you just pointed out, that no Israeli can ever participate with J Street again. It's also great because in the last few years, Ehud Barak has spoken with them. Ehud Olmert has. This woman, Stav, something from the Labor Party has spoken. It's over. So J Street is going to get hit by hard. They're all going to get hit hard by this. Now, again, it will cause further polarization, I think, within the Jews. But now the lines have been set. There is no more you can be anti-Zionist but not anti-Semitic. Those lines have been blurred until now. But now the line's been drawn. It's been clear. You're with us or you're against us. This is not about territories anymore. This is not about, well, it's not anti-Semitic. It's just criticizing Israeli government policy. This board wanted to boycott the entire state of Israel. They're exposed.
Side note, J Street had at their previous conference and a year ago and the year before that, as a keynote speaker, Ayman Oda, the head of the Arab List Party.
Yeah.
So Ayman Oda, just last night on social media, there you go, that meme, it shows that he's with the head of Khalida Jarrah, the head of the PFLP in Israel, in Judea and Samaria, who's in jail right now. So Ayman Oda took to social media last night and had a picture of himself holding a Ben & Jerry's, eating it, enjoying it. I'm for it. I'm for the boycott, all that. And then later today, he was rushed to the hospital. So,
I saw that. Kidney stones.
There is a God. So,
Meir, have you ever had kidney stones before?
No.
Do you know how painful they are?
I heard.
I am the proud bearer of 5 kidney stones in my life.
Okay.
So
I will tell you.
I'll tell you some words I'd use to describe it. I couldn't use it in a public forum.
It's a shooting pain, and you keel over, and there is no toughing it out. So good for him. And may those kidney stones be as big as a scoop of ice cream.
Because of all the protests and all the Israel advocacy I've been involved with in all the years, God has protected me from kidney stones.
Exactly right.
Good for you. So
okay, so it looks like there's another video about these Christian Arab soldier in the IDF and a Muslim.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, I'll put on first the soldier, very proud IDF, and so here he is.
My name is Yahya Mohammed. I'm 21 years old. I'm an Israeli. I'm an Arab. I'm a Muslim, and I'm a proud soldier, Israeli Defense Forces. I grew up in the Arab village of Al-Fahim. I grew up in a country that I was taught to hate, but eventually I fell in love with Israel. I decided I wanted to give back to my country. So even though I am not required to do military service, I chose to enlist in the IDF and join a combat unit. I was nervous about how the rest of my platoon would feel about serving with a soldier who comes from a Muslim background. But I was greeted with open arms, treated with nothing but respect and admiration. Today I officially finished advanced training in the Nahal Infantry Brigade. And when I stood on the ceremony alongside the brothers that I had been training with for the last 8 months, I was proud to accept the responsibility of standing at the borders and protecting my country, Israel. What made me fall in love with Israel was the resilience of its people, and I'm proud to be part of that people. And I'm proud to be me, an Israeli, Arab, Muslim, IDF soldier.
I don't have the pictures with me. I'm sorry. But
Oh no, you can talk over these. That's fine.
Colonel Richard Kemp, former British military commander.
David Matlin, you're watching Insight Magazine. Over 1.5 million Israeli Arabs reside in the country, about 20% of the population. Exempt from compulsory military service, they still enjoy the same rights as other Israelis. Yet these citizens feel marginalized, and Israel strives to integrate them by urging them to join the military, Israel's great melting pot. A recent project focused on Arab Christians. And just like the Druze or Bedouins, an increasing number of Christians now volunteer to the Israel Defense Force. Following the announcement of this program, a large part of the Israeli Arab leadership protested. In their eyes, these Christians who enlist betray the Arab cause. Well, here's me, a Christian Arab and IDF soldier, a report by Michael Bloom for I-24 News.
لا ندري كيف يفكرون بمثل هذا التفكير أن يجندوا العرب مسيحيين ومسلمين. أن تفرض الخدمة العسكرية على جزء من أبناء شعبنا كما فعلتم بالخمسينات. اليوم شعبنا موحد أكثر وواعي أكثر ومدرك أكثر لخطورة الموقف. من أجل الحفاظ على هويتنا وامتناننا الوطني. من أجل الحفاظ على ما تبقى من أرضنا.
We're in Sachnin, an Arab village in northern Israel. Christians and Muslims stand side by side. All are Israeli Arabs. They're here to express their anger and denounce calls for the military enlistment of Christians. In the street, the staging of a scene. A youngster disguised as an Israeli soldier brutalizes a Palestinian prisoner. These protesters may have Israeli citizenship, yet it's the Palestinian flag they proudly wave, as if to underscore their own identity.
By encouraging Palestinian Christians to go to the army now, they want to isolate Christians as not being Arabs, as not belonging to the Arab nation. We consider ourselves Palestinian people, and we want to reject and to defeat this Zionist project.
This so-called Zionist project is the new campaign launched by the IDF to attract more and more Christians, a campaign that disturbs and divides.
My aim here is to make sure that no one approaches the base, to prevent danger, to prevent any armed person from being in this area, in general to control and protect the base.
Tamer Ashkar is a sniper. This 19-year-old youth is doing his military service at this base, north of the West Bank. Here, he's the only one wearing a cross around his neck.
Everyone says I'm an Israeli Arab, but it is not true. I am an Israeli Christian who speaks Arabic. I decided to enlist because my brother was in the army, and when I used to see him coming home in his uniform, I thought it was great. Not to do my military service is like not giving enough to my country.
Like all Israeli Arabs, Tamer is not obliged to join the army. However, he decided to join this fighting unit for at least 3 years. In case of war, he'll be among the first on the front line.
I am convinced that he greatly contributes to understanding between soldiers of different faith and his importance to my unit. He contributes to the integration of everyone in the society. I'm aware of the difficulties he faces and that of other Christians in the army. To me, he's a pioneer.
It's hard. This is not obvious. Here I am in uniform, this is my job, and I'm proud of it. When I get home, I am proud too. Besides, I have not asked permissions to go home in civilian clothes. I stay in uniform, but sometimes there are people who seek to cause me trouble, who argue with me because I'm a soldier. Never mind, I'm proud of what I do.
He may have a cross tattooed on his arm, but Tamer does not feel different from his brothers in arms. The army is a second family for him.
Welcome.
His parents are also very proud. On Facebook, Tamer is not afraid to pose in his IDF uniform. In his family, to do one's military service is primarily a duty.
Here is a certificate which marks the end of the sniper course. In Israel, everyone has the right to do military service, to give part of his life to the country where he lives, to integrate well into society, because we are living in the state of Israel, and we are proud to be Israeli. We like to give to the country, so that in return, it will give us rights.
In Israel, military service is compulsory at the age of 18 years, 2 years for girls and 3 for boys. Except for Arab citizens of Israel, they number more than 1.5 million, or 20% of the population. Among them are 130,000 Christians. Last year, only 100 Christians joined the army. This figure is increasing, but it's still not enough for the IDF. The army launched a campaign to encourage the community to enlist.
We organize various activities to prepare for the army. Seminars, briefings, meetings with specialists who explain all the options open to them in the army.
Nazareth in northern Israel, the country's largest Arab city, 75,000 inhabitants, 1/3 of whom are Christians. According to the Gospels, this is the place where Jesus, Joseph, and Mary lived. There are only a handful of the faithful in this small Greek Orthodox church. Father Gabriel Nadaf leads the prayers in Arabic.
I'm not an Arab, not that being an Arab is an insult. It is an identity that we recognize, but I am not an Arab.
And another quick comment, this one's much shorter.
I'm visiting an Israeli village called Turan, and I will show you what it's like to be an Arab in Israel, and I'm meeting my friend. What's your name?
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Orsan Adoui.
He's my Muslim friend who lives here. In Israel, there are over 1.6 million Arabs who hold an Israeli citizenship, and they are 20.8% of the population in Israel. 83.8 of them are Muslim, 8.4 are Christian, and 8.3 are Druze. The Israeli Arabs have the best lives among other Arabs in the Middle East. Why? It's very simple, because when we look at the slaughter and chaos in the Middle East, with millions of Arabs living in poverty, the killing of hundreds of thousands of civilians, and the rise of radical groups like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, Hezbollah, and others, it's easy to understand why the Israeli Arabs prefer to live in Israel. In Israel, Arabs have equal rights, freedom of speech, where it is unknown elsewhere in the Middle East. They have the right to vote and get elected to the Israeli government. In fact, there are 18 Arab members of Knesset. Arabs are police officers in Israel, Arabs are judges in Israel, Arabs are professors and doctors. These are the Arabs of Israel, or in other words, the freest Arabs in the Middle East. That's his car. That's like this. What?
There you have it.
Yep. See, now that is a good video. You want to piss off Linda Sarsour and those people, keep promoting videos like that. And you know what? When I was in college in Detroit, I used to put up, showcases in, in the student center of what the Palestinians and the PLO were doing to Christians in Lebanon. And I'm telling you, I was causing fights in the hallways over there. And that's the way you do it. You know, this is not, again, this is not a battle for truth. It's to win the hearts and minds of people. And so this is what we're fighting back against. You know, if they accuse us of apartheid, a picture of Jews and whites and blacks together at the beach of Tel Aviv is not what's going to win that battle.
Right. So-called ethnic cleansing and apartheid and all that garbage.
Right.
It's amazing.
But again, it's been repeated so many times that now apartheid it's part of the lexicon. And you have J Street using it, you have Jewish groups using it, you've got the Jewish left using it all the time. You had John Kerry using it when he was the Secretary of State, in the Obama administration. So that's what happens when you repeat a lie enough times, it becomes the accepted language.
And we got the emergence of the Abraham Accords.
Right.
So
and let's see if the Biden administration doesn't screw that up. But as you know, the UAE is opening up an embassy in Tel Aviv. That's certainly a great first step. And so, we have to keep hoping that this is the direction of the rest of the Arab world. And we'll just have to fight the Hamas caucus, on our own. But like as you know, you live in Toronto or the suburbs of Toronto. You guys have a real battle on your hands. I see it in Montreal. A number of months ago, you did a show about the Canadian Human Rights Museum and the attempt by Arab activists to have the Nakba displayed alongside the Holocaust, and under the guise of who's to say whose catastrophe is worse. So this is what we're fighting against. And when you have groups saying that we have to have Holocaust education in the public school system, you can bet that if that ever passes, that they're going to want Nakba education taught alongside of it. So
100%. They're going to have their allies, J Street and J Space, and all these people who legitimize anti-Semitism. Right to their aid. Listen, this topic that we have tonight, this is not going to be I believe this show is going to be part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. J Street is certainly not going to apologize or anything. They're turning up the switch, the notch even more. They want to fight this through. This is their reason for being.
Right.
And there's a lot of action going on in the Jewish community. This is something that has to be tackled and spoken about and dealt with. It's not a one-night event. And we're going to follow through on this. And we want to see what is going to happen with these states that passed anti-BDS legislation, what the commitment is from the government here, the result of the summit that they just had today on anti-Semitism. This is the new anti-Semitism. And there certainly are some loser white supremacists for sure. They're not the main threat that the Jewish community faces, and they want to say that it is. It is not. Israel is not surrounded by white supremacists. Israel is surrounded by agents of Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, and their proxies in other countries, radical Islam. That's what it is. So, we're certainly not going to ignore it and move on to some other topic. Like this is just something that, very nicely packaged. This is a huge issue.
Right. Listen, it's going to dominate. It's going to dominate. And you know why? Because now the Jews are involved and everybody wants to be a part of this victory. So when you have all these stores that are boycotting it and canceling it, it's going to snowball into something much, much bigger. And that's why, again, on this particular issue, I'm hopeful.
I've been following for a number of years already, Yair Lapid, and he's been very outspoken for many years on the issue of the BDS. He's very knowledgeable about it. He knows what it is. There's no question about it. And he's saying the right stuff right now on behalf of the government of Israel. Looks like there's a video that our doctor in the studio wants to put in here. And I recognize one of the
one tune-up was very interesting. It's from Newsmax. I'm not sure how many of our listeners and followers follow Newsmax, but it's a much more reasonable perspective of what's going on in the world. It doesn't go extreme left, extreme right, but there's just a little over a minute comment, which I think is appropriate now. And here it is.
As I talk about what's happening in Israel right now, folks, one of the biggest problems is that America is weak. I told you none of this would have ever happened under President Trump and didn't. Well, a friend of this program, Rabbi Shmuley, really went public today in a big way, denouncing the Biden administration and his, Joe Biden's, response to what's going on. Listen to Rabbi Shmuley, who is in New York.
Where is President Biden to show moral leadership? Where is President Biden to show moral courage that the United States stands with those who fight for freedom and not for terrorists?
Well, he talks about moral courage. It is something, sadly, the Democrats do not have. And I would ask you, if you are Jewish and you are a Democrat and you are living in America today, how do you support an administration that turns its back on your home country? I do not understand it. Israel is our one true ally in the Middle East. Without it, we would be devastating. The world would be in a chaos like you have never seen before. Israel provides stability to a region that is in absolute chaos. It's time now we support Israel. President Trump did. Joe Biden better learn his lesson, and he better learn it soon. Otherwise, our allies in Israel will continue to be under these rocket attacks that nobody should ever have to live under. That's why we call them terrorists, and that's what they are, Hamas.
Yeah, Newsmax is a great network, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, listen, I mean, maybe we should just continue next week, Alan, if you got the time to join us. And
let's see what new developments come about. I'm sure, again, the HUFK is going to be issuing a statement. There's going to be more controversy coming out. Unilever is going to follow up on this. Those people are not going to sleep at night. There's just so much at stake here for their brand, their PR, their public relations, their reputations at stake. There's so much going on here. And again, the Jews are feeling it. They're feeling the groove now. And you've got the summertime, the 3 weeks are over, the 9 days are over, and this gives them something to be a part of and to feel proud of.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We didn't have any calls, so I guess everybody just wants to hear the information, which is great. Okay, so if whoever watches our show, please share this on your various pages and groups that you're part of on social media. Also, if you can make a contribution, visit our website, israelnow.ca, make a donation. It will be used wisely to further all the important work that we're involved with to do the research, get the information, have the show, have equipment. If we're going to have, we may have protests coming up as well. We do have an office. There are some expenses, so we would absolutely appreciate it. Until next week, I want to thank everybody. Alan, last words.
Again, Meir, every week you're spot on. You are fearless. The doctor in the office is fearless. And damn, I wish I could have him on my staff because he just does great engineering work for you.
Thank you.
You've got a very loyal base. You're doing great work. You're doing everything l'shem shamayim for the right reasons, and keep doing it. And your viewers and listeners should value it, and they should support you.
Absolutely. Good. Our doctor.
Yes.
Final words.
My final words is as always, I have a song of the week, and this is about 7 minutes long. It's a little longer. So let me tell you a little about these guys. Yeah. And because we once had a copyright problem, what I'm doing now ahead of time, actually go and contact the people and ask them for permission. I mean, I used to think that it's better to ask for forgiveness and permission, but one time we got our entire show blocked because they didn't ask for permission. So this is an interesting group out of Israel. And basically it's the Revivo Project. You think it sounds for revive, but actually it's honoring Ravi Ben Menachem, who was an Israeli composer and creator. This little group won the Israeli Band of the Year 1 year, and they love to take old Jewish songs, prayers, melodies from antiquity as well as from the 70s and 80s and do medleys of them. So I'm going to close out with this song, and then we'll do the closing title. And this is your last opportunity, Alan, to make a closing comment before we close.
No, you guys are great. Play the music.
Here goes.
Okay.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לכנסה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא עובד והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא עובד בתפארה והוא היה והוא עובד בתפארה והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה אלוקים נתן לך במתנה דבר גדול, דבר נפלא אלוקים נתן לך במתנה את החיים על פני האדמה נתן לך חגים ושבתות את ישראל ארץ האבות ידיים וראש להגשים החלומות נתן לך את כל הנפלאות נתן לך דברים כל כך יפים להביא לעולם ילדים להאזין לשירים לירות אומר אבו מעשך אלוקים אלוקים תן לי רק עוד מתנה מתנה קטנה אך נפלאה אלוקים תן לי רק עוד מתנה את השלום על פני האדמה ברכנו השם אלוקינו בכל מעשה ידינו ברכנו השם אלוקינו וברך את שנתנו תן לנו מתנה
חי קורא אני בלי קול רק אותך תמיד ביקשתי רק אותך מכל שתשמע אותי קורא סומה מתוך הליל ותאיר לי את הדרך שלא יהיה נופל ותאיר לי את הדרך שלא יהיה נופל יש תמים בחכמים ויש גם בני אדם כאדוני ניסח הכהן וגבה ליבם ולשונם כצדיקים בסתר חידתם אך לך הכל גלו לך בורא עולם אך לך הכל גלו לך בורא עולם כי ידעת את קולך וידעת מה כואב מה אסור ומה מותר מה הוא רע ומה ישר אני יודע מלך לא נעלם דבר אני יודע מלך לא נעלם דבר כי ידעת את קולך וידעת מה כואב מה אסור מה מותר מה הורא מה ישר אני יודע ממך לא נעלם דבר אני יודע ממך לא נעלם דבר
Well, guys.
Incredible.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, just don't forget to mention Israel Now, our group that's recently formed. So everybody join. You can find us on Facebook or find us on our website.
And we're going to be coming up with shirts, very nice polo shirts with the logo for Israel Now. And, you know, you make a contribution, you'll get a shirt. So go on our website and, you know, we got people from really all over the place emailing us. I've always had that, people with the JDL from all over the place emailing us. But people are very interested in this new organization that's formed, Israel Now, and be part of it. Be part of it. Let's get the job done. You know, Israel's being slandered so much, left, right, and center. And right now with this whole garbage anti-Semitic campaign by Ben and Jerry's and their allies on the so-called left, which is actually the fascist left, attacking Israel, the existence of Israel, the Jewish people. They need Israel now. Be part of the in group, the in crowd. Join Israel Now, IN, that's it. Visit our website. We're working on it. We're improving it. It's an interesting chapter in Jewish history right now. We want to be part of it. We want you to be part of it. Join with us. Let's make our mark. Let's support Israel. Let's be good Jews and attach ourselves to Israel. That's part of your identity. Be proud of it. Don't hold your head down in shame. Keep your back straight and move forward. Let's get the job done. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good
Perhaps
night.
next week we'll have a little bit for lifestyles of the rich and heartless Palestinian style, where they have at least 2 billionaires, 200 millionaires living in Gaza. They have 5-star hotels, but that's not for some reason what CNN and MSNBC choose to show us. So let's just continue to be honest and get the message out there. On that note, I'll sign off.
Good night, everyone.
Israel